Welcome, everyone, to our May Mindfulness Refresher class. And glad you could join me. Today, we're going to focus on mental health and mindfulness and I think you all know, we've been to some of the classes, how mindfulness can help with stress and other emotional well-being. We've talked about those at various times, but it can also really help with other mental health conditions, anxiety, depression, for example. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that since May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so let's do this first. Quick practice. So kind of the hand is for a couple of ways. One, to signify just stop, just pause, just stop for a minute. And we're going to do this kind of 3-minute mindfulness check. So first step is just simply to be aware of what's going on for you right now. Kind of ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I doing today, right at this moment? How am I? Sort of doing an internal weather check. What's that weather pattern doing internally? As you ask yourself that question, maybe noticing thoughts that arise. Thoughts are present. And when you do that, just notice. You don't have to fix or problem solve or do anything with those thoughts. Just notice them, that they're there, watch them come and go. Be aware of thoughts. And then often associated with that are your feelings, your emotions, what's also present for you. It's your emotional state, your mood right now. Right? And then what's going on in the body? Just doing a quick scan and noticing what's happening in my body right now. What is there? Tension, tightness? Is there some relaxation or ease? Or is there something you might notice connected to what's going on for you today in that area of thoughts and emotions? Are kind of all connected. So what's going on in the body right now? What sensations stand out to you? So that's our mindful check-in of thoughts, emotions, and body sensations. We're not done quite yet. So next step is to breathe and just be aware of the breath. Just for a moment or so, we're just going to notice the breath flowing in and out of the body, just that natural rhythm and pace of your breathing. And just focus on your breathing. Just be aware of the in-breath, the out-breath. If you want, you can take a couple of deeper, longer breaths that might help to relax and refocus. Just be aware of your breathing in and out. And of course, our standard practice is that if our mind wanders and carries us away and we're thinking about something else, just let that go and refocus on the breath. Just come back to that next breath. Okay? So that you stay with the breath for another moment or so. Kind of zooming in on the sensations of your breathing. And then the final step is simply to widen the lens, kind of zoom out and be aware of the whole body as it sits here, the whole body breathing, maybe feeling the breath throughout the whole body. And then even being aware of the space around you, if there's people in the area or whatever you notice around you. So just opening up and expanding your awareness. And then bring that expanded awareness with you to the next activities every day. And that's a 3-minute mindfulness check. It's here. And as I said, I'll share the slides with you. I'm going to post them also, since it is Mental Health Awareness Month. But I send them to the list of folks who are on my invite. So if you're not on that, if you signed up for this through LMS, let me know if you want to get the link to the recording and the slides, and make sure that will ensure that you get them from me. So that's the 3-minute mindfulness check, sometimes called the 3-minute breathing space. Another quick practice is to actually use the hand itself and simply trace, so putting the hand up in front of you, and then with your other hand, just tracing fingers and sort of getting that sense of being in touch with the tactile feeling of doing this. And so as you breathe, as you come up the finger, breathe in and breathe out. Each finger, breathe in, breathe out. Good way to kind of focus in on what that feels like and focus in on the breath. Then as you come to the other side, up to the thumb, you can go back completely the other way if you have time and you want to do that. But that's just another quick practice to kind of ground us and get us out of the head and into the body. So 2 quick practices to start. Hopefully that helped to bring us here a little bit. And again, this is just May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we have a few activities planned for later in the month. We're going to be doing some cafeteria displays with employee and family resources, but also the peer support teams will be participating in that. But so as we talk about mental health awareness, and I mentioned up front that mindfulness practices really help do a number of things for our mental and emotional well-being. Just asking yourself, again, how is it going? How are you really doing? And how are you being in the moment? Remember, mindfulness helps us get into that state of being rather than the constant doing. And sometimes the constant doing can leave us feeling very overwhelmed, and it can lead to multitasking. We talked about that last month. So we really just want to, with our mindful and meditation practices, just be. So thanks for being with me and doing that. And if you want to tell me a little bit of how it's going for you, I always do this kind of check-in. Feel free to put into the chat, how's your practice going? Are you doing some formal practices? In other words, taking some time to do a sitting meditation or some other meditation on some of the apps that you might be using, or at the end, I'll give you lots of resources that you can use. But also, how about informal practices? Like the 2 that we just did are informal practices, or just being aware of what you're doing while you're doing it. Mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful brushing of the teeth, whatever it is, mindful washing of your hands. Again, great ways to informally strengthen your mindfulness awareness. And the more you do that, of course, the more that mindful, I really remembering to be mindful will surface throughout your day, even in your busiest days. So those practices are important. So how's it going for you? If anybody wants to share a little bit of his maybe a success or a challenge that you're finding with your mindfulness practice. So today, as you do that, if anybody else wants to share, we're going to do applications, talk a little bit about mindfulness applications in mental health treatment. I have a couple of quotes for you that are pertinent. Strategies for when news is overwhelming. We're faced with an awful lot of very difficult and challenging news and events that are going on in the world. I don't have to mention them. I don't want to mention them really, but I'm going to give you a couple strategies for dealing with those. We're going to do 2 meditations today, and we're going to just remind you about the gratitude resources and other resources. All right, so a couple of things in the chat here. So formal practices are going well. Good. I like the link in the site. Yeah, so good. So there are some recordings on that. The Carillon Wellbeing site is our EFR site. It's provided by our EFR vendor. So we have uploaded a bunch of stuff there. So I'm glad to hear you using that. Another comment, informal is going well. Also glad to hear that. Haven't been making time for formal practices. And, honestly, that's not uncommon. Many people have a hard time carving out the space and the time to do the formal practices. So maybe make an intention of yours to expand one or two of those informal practices to a more formal practice, is the suggestion. Another comment, I tend to lean towards the informal practice. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're doing those throughout your day, I think sometimes that can be very, very helpful for strengthening your overall practice. But again, try to build in some formal practices if you can. Informal practice is also another comment, going well and being mindful and transitioning between tasks. Good. Perfect example when you're transitioning. Those are great kind of pause periods to take a mindful break. So grabbing a cup of coffee or water in between meetings. Mindful listening, I'm glad to hear you're doing that. I think that's really, really important. And when you think about it, that's really what it comes down to with our relationships. Trying to listen more than we talk, or try to listen mindfully so that we're not always trying to figure out what's going on in our own minds, what we're going to say, but really listening to what that person is trying to get across. So glad to hear. Those are great comments. All right, so let's move on to this. This is from, I've mentioned Shamash Aladina before. He's one of the instructors that I've taken some courses with. And he talks about 5 health dimensions in which mindfulness are important. So mental health, enjoying greater peace and focus. So really being aware of what's going on in our inner life, as well as how that connects with our outer experiences, with a sense of kindness, curiosity, and acceptance. And I think that acceptance part is really important. So this idea of trying to accept things as they are, or at least those things that you cannot control. And so that's important to our mental health. Emotional health, of course, is related to that, feeling better. We've done a lot of this in some of our classes. Being less likely to get lost in thoughts about past regrets or future worries. Again, that's part of the our human nature is we get lost. We get caught up in all those things that have happened or those things that haven't happened. And so reconnecting with the present moment is a great way to not do that and not get caught up and not really be on autopilot all the time. And then, of course, we just brought this up, but it really helps us with our emotional connection with other people, emotional intelligence. And I think mindful listening is one of the most important qualities for doing that. The other two, by the way, which I didn't put up here, are our physical health and our spiritual health. So those are the other 2 dimensions that he mentions. If anybody wants that full, it's an article that he sends out, like his weekly newsletter. You can get that, sign up for yourself if you like, but I'm happy to send it to you. If anybody wants that, just let me know. Okay, so just wanted to mention this, that mindfulness practices have been integrated into several different mental health treatments and therapies. And these have all been studied, so they've been shown to be evidence-based practices. I'll go through them quickly. Mindfulness-based cognitive therapy is based on mindfulness-based stress reduction classes, which are the original 8-session classes by John Kabat-Zinn that he created. And what they've done with this is they've applied it to depression in particular, and really in helping people avoid recurring depression or relapsing back into a depressive state. So what happens with depression is, of course, we get negative thinking. And with negative thinking, our thoughts can get out of control. We begin to ruminate, we begin to worry, we begin to go over all those past regrets. And the whole essence of this mindfulness-based cognitive therapy is not letting that happen, stopping that rumination, stopping that train of thought. The second is dialectical behavioral therapy. And I don't know a lot about this, but if you want to read more about it, there is a link in the slides here. This is from, all of these are from this particular link from positivepsychology.com. It's a great article. It's got a lot of great information. If you want that, you can check into that. But similarly, dialectical, or DBT for short, uses mindfulness practices to, again, not to get recentered and not let ourselves get caught up into the sort of storyline which comes up in our minds and then creates a stronger emotional reaction than what's necessary. It's kind of like making a mountain out of a molehill. Acceptance and commitment therapy is a relatively newer therapy, but as you can see from the actual title, it's a lot about accepting things as they are. So they use that. But then also what I like about ACT is that then you become more aware of the thought patterns that sometimes trip us up. Sometimes we get lost in thought, and then also a subsequent emotional reaction, right? But then it takes it into action. What are the steps you can take? And that's the commitment, committing yourself to some action steps to resolve that particular situation, whether it's related to anxiety and stress, or as you can see, the others, anger. A lot of these techniques are used in anger management and anger therapy. Also with addiction, it's used to help with cravings. And again, as I mentioned, it's helpful in depression treatment as well. So just to kind of point out that there are a number of applications for these. The other thing that I like is that what Shamash points out initially is, let's remember, mindfulness isn't focused necessarily on fixing our problems, although it can be helpful, as we just discussed, but also you can just enjoy mindfulness for your own sake. And I'm guessing that's why a lot of you participate in some of these. It's a nice way to practice. It's just to really take that time for ourselves to relax and step back from the stress of the day. But it can help with times when we're kind of suffering and going through some difficult challenges. So we do, as I've discussed before, have this negativity bias, and that's kind of the problem, in that we put more weight on negative events compared to positive events. And we remember, react, think, and make decisions more strongly in relation to negative experiences. So what that means is we have to intentionally focus on the positive things more. And as you've seen, I've talked about this a number of times, trying to savor positive events. But this all comes from our evolutionary adaptation. In other words, we're kind of hardwired this way now because of the way we've evolved. We've had to focus on those threats, things that are negative, things that we have to, in order to survive, and that's the whole saber-toothed tiger kind of analogy. And for millennia, we've had to really be able to kind of stay away from those things just to survive. That's how our human brain has evolved, and we still have that hardwiring in the brain. It still exists. And so that's why when we get these triggers to even somewhat minor stressors, it triggers on some emotional reactivity. And as you remember, some of the things that we do is we learn to not react compulsively, not react on autopilot, but to be able to step back from that and respond in a way that's mindful, in a way that's thoughtful. And so what I thought I would do is just kind of mention this is a great kind of practical application. We all know what it's like to watch the news, whether it's on TV or you get your news feed on your phone or whatever device. And there are so many things that are going on that are extremely troubling, right? So it's just some strategies for taking that in and regulating it in a way. So first is to consume your media intake mindfully, because because of the negativity bias, it is so easy to get sucked into that. It's calls it a vortex. And it's so easy to kind of get lost in that, and kind of can sort of get this hyper arousal. And that's sort of the normal state sometimes when we're looking at what's going on in the world around us. And so the question is this useful? Is this helpful to us? If you find yourself really focusing and refocusing on all those horrible things that are going on in world events, is this the right dose for you, or have I overdosed? Kind of asking yourself that question, and dialing back a little. If you feel compelled to learn more about what's happening, you can turn to other sources with different information. So maybe mindfully taking in ways that is easier to control for yourself. And then the second step is really paying extra attention for our own self-care and mindfulness. And I think some of you are already doing that, of course, by participating in these, but more practices, more mindful practices that help, more recentering so that you don't, get that reactivity, and taking care of your feelings when you feel those negative feelings in your, we rightfully so are extremely worried and anxious about some of the wars that are going on, for example, or, there's so many things. I don't even want to go into all of them, but we have strong feelings. So mindfulness can help us recognize those feelings and then not get caught up in them, not get swept away by them. Third step is to engage wisely, keep alive moments of energy, joy, beauty. So that's that refocusing on the positive. If we focus on all the things that are going wrong, that will become our future. Here's the quote by Thich Nhat Hanh: "You don't have to do everything, just do what you can in your own little corner of the planet." So you might decide you want to do something in response, but it's overwhelming. So what can you do in your own corner of the world? And then if we don't take care of ourselves, we're going to be a mess. And when we're really needed, that's when it counts. That's why we need to take care of ourselves. That's from Cairo Jewel Lingo. She's from 10% Happier podcast. So just some examples. I also have this from Rick Hansen, which is kind of a nice 3-step pause in relation, just to give you a practical thing you can try. So take a pause, like we did before. How am I? How are you feeling? What thoughts are going on? What's happening in the body? 3 breaths. Breathe in, feel the breath, slow down, let it calm you. Breathe in for you, whatever you need in the moment. Maybe you need to relax. Maybe you need to refocus your thoughts. Maybe you need to go for a walk, whatever it is. Breathe in for you, and then breathe out for others. All those that you worry about, all who are affected by those situations. Breathe out for them, keeping them in your thoughts and your prayers. And so you're feeling your feelings, you're acknowledging, you're labeling them, you're not ignoring them, you're not stuffing them, but you're in this mindful way, you're doing that so that you can then educate yourself from trusted resources and in limited doses. Resource yourself. What do you need? And then make some plans. What do you want to do in response? How do you want to take care of yourself and your loved ones? Those are the kinds of things. And what's one thing that you can do? And then put that plan in place. So kind of just wanted to give you that practical way to respond to some of those things. These are quotes that I've used before. We are not troubled by things, but by the opinions we have about things. So mindful practice helps us notice those opinions and not get caught up by them, and then be aware of the difference between the stimulus and the response, and that there is this space there. And I think our mindfulness practices really helps us carve out that space a little bit so that we can have a little bit more control in the moment. All right, so let's do our first practice with this image of peace. The first one is called the 10-minute breathing space. So I'm probably going to shorten this a little bit just so we get both in. So I'd be more like a 7-minute breathing space. So let's begin. And first step is simply, as we often do, just take a comfortable seat with your spine tall. Your eyes can be gently closed, or if you prefer, just slightly opened, looking down in front of you, becoming aware of the breath, and just taking a moment to fully arrive here. Take a moment to notice how you feel. Can you identify any areas of tension? How is your energy, high or low? What's occupying your mind right now? And then take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. So a big inhale through the nose, pause, and then open your mouth and release the breath with a sigh. And again, inhale fully, completely filling the lungs, pause, and let it out and release. Now with your next inhale, find a little extra length in your spine. We're reaching up the crown of the head. And find a little more openness in your heart and chest area. Let the shoulders relax. Find some softness in your face and in your front of your body. And what we're kind of doing is letting our back and our spine be strong and letting our front of our body be soft. And we're going to take a 2-part in breath. So halfway in and then all the way in. So breathe in halfway, then all the way, and then breathe out, either through the nose or the mouth. Do that a couple more times. In halfway on the in-breath, all the way in, and then all the way out. You kind of get the idea of that pace. So at this slow, steady pace, with each exhale, focus on leaving something behind. Any thoughts or worries that are lingering or causing stress. So on each exhale, as you leave that something behind, imagine that stress or whatever it is sinking into the chair or the earth, leaving your body, draining away. And again, if your mind wanders, don't worry, not a problem. That's going to happen. Just bring it back to this breath. You might try visualizing, this is another breath technique, visualizing the breath as a bright white light inside of you, starting at the base of your spine. And with your inhale, it rises up your spine, swirls around your heart and chest, and then reaches up to a peak in the brain. And then as you exhale, it goes back down, all the way down your spine, back to the base of your spine. So each inhale, that bright white light rising up through the body, up to the mind and the brain. As you exhale, coming back down. Sort of cleansing and washing and soothing and comforting. And just keeping your eyes closed or keeping your attention inward, just take a moment to notice how you feel. Just make a couple of mental observations of how your body and your mind feels after this short period of stillness and breathing. And whenever you're ready, without rushing, you can slowly open your eyes if they've been closed. Take as much time as you need to come out of the meditation, feeling free to stretch or to sit still, following whatever your body needs. So that's a breathing space to de-stress and focus. You can notice what we did in the beginning was kind of like that 3-minute breathing space. And we just used a couple of other breathing techniques. So hope that was helpful. Feel free to kind of put into the chat what that was like. Love to hear what you thought about that. But this is moving on with the kind of the mental health and how our thoughts and our emotions can sometimes lead us astray in a sense. This is the chronic stress equation. So you have a stressor, and especially if it's a somewhat strong stressor, what brings us to the state of chronic stress? So it's stressor plus rumination and or self-criticism and or stoicism. So in other words, if that stressor causes us to obsess and to worry and to dwell on those thoughts, that's going to lead us to chronic stress. Or if we tend to be self-critical about how we responded, and that continues, and we continue to focus on, what we should have done or what we didn't do right, or, that inner critic is kind of running the show up here, that will lead us to chronic stress or anxiety. Or stoicism. The other stoicism is when we kind of stuff it, we ignore it, we don't pay attention to it, we don't acknowledge it. So either one of those things can lead us to chronic stress, or basically it's sort of the same thing as anxiety. And that is the worry addiction that Tara Brach talks about. Got a couple of nice comments here. I'm just looking at those. Thank you for those. Appreciate those. I'm glad those are great comments about that. Felt nourishing. Good. Yeah, the double halfway inhale, chance to really notice and appreciate my breathing. I agree also. I find that particular technique very, very helpful when I'm kind of more stressed out than usual. But the worry addiction is, I've talked about this before, but it's been a while. And I do have a handout on this if anybody's interested, but essentially I've summarized it here. The first step is knowing the difference between fear and anxiety. Fear is when we're something's going on. It's a perceived immediate threat. And often, so that may be a real threat and that we're fearful of, but it also may be a perceived threat. Anxiety is the emotional state that arises to an anticipated threat. So it's not really real, may feel real, but it's not, it's anticipated. It's in the future. We don't really know that it's going to happen, but we worry about it. We get caught up in it. They both have the same physiological response. And what she points out is that anxiety can be addictive. It's sort of a mind-body looping thing that's going on. Thinking of the future, that arises anxiety, right? Should I say arouses anxiety. So it's not just your thoughts about what can go wrong, but it's also the anxiety in your body. You feel that anxiety coming in the way of our physical reaction to that. That generates more anxious thoughts and feelings. And that sort of becomes a vicious cycle and habitual. And it can turn into kind of a generalized anxiety. And she calls them, this is kind of interesting, these thoughts become like heat-seeking missiles, searching for something to worry about. Sadly, these thoughts about the future directly compromise your ability to enjoy what's happening right here and now. So the idea, of course, is to break that worry addiction. So it's really very simple. First step is to become mindful of those anxious thoughts, much like we've done in a couple of the practices already. Then drop into the body, become aware of the physical sensations that are going on. Where do you feel that anxiety in the body? And then offer yourself some comfort or care. You can do this with the breathing, but you can also do this with your words. You can say to yourself, it's going to be all right. I've dealt with this before. I can get through this. I have the inner resources to deal with this, whatever it is. You're kind of being your own advocate, and you're kind of giving yourself that sort of that support and that boost that you need. So try that. That's breaking the worry addiction. It's not going to automatically take it away, but like with all of this, it's going to take some practice. That's important. You have to practice all of these techniques. Same thing with RAIN. I just kind of wanted to remind you of RAIN. RAIN is a technique that's similar in some ways. The acronym is to recognize what's happening in the moment, allowing life to be as it is. So instead of wishing it were different, or instead of ignoring it or pushing it away, or railing against it, just allow it to be as it is, as best you can, as much as you can tolerate. Just saying, this is how it is right now. Can I be with this? The eyes to investigate your inner experience, same thing, kind of turn inward, notice what's going on. With kindness, that's the important thing. Be kind to yourself. And then the end is the result of it. Notice either the nurturing part that you can do, like we just did in the worry addiction, nurture yourself, or to realize that you don't have to identify with this. This is not essentially who you are. These are things that are going on. These are storm clouds that are passing through the sky of your awareness. They may be stormy and thunderous and lightning and all that, but they're going to pass. And who you really are is the sky. Storm clouds are moving through the sky, but basic essence of you is your overall awareness, and you can step back from that and kind of learn how to get into the eye of the hurricane, which we've done before. Just wanted to mention gratitude. Gratitude is probably one of the best, most highly studied links to well-being. And so, as you might know, we're entering into our 10 days of gratitude. I have a quick gratitude seminar today at 2. And so lots and lots of stuff. There's a great video here when you get the link. But if you want to know more about that, there's lots throughout these 10 days. We have come up with a number of different live and recorded resources. You'll see them, the links that you've gotten through the email already will take you there. But if you want to go to Thrive, you can see them there. This is how you get there. If you go to the intranet, you open up departments and communities, then you go over to T and Thrive. Once you open up, you'll see this on the bottom. Look for live and recorded resources, and that's where you're going to see all this stuff if you want to follow up on some of that. So just wanted to mention that's a great reinforcement to all these practices. It's a great way to counteract and overcome the negativity bias. So the last meditation that I'd like to do is the ACT meditation. This is also from Shamash Aladina. This brings to mind some things that are important to us, things that give us purpose and meaning, and also towards the end a little bit of, what is your commitment towards this? So let's do this to finish up. So beginning the meditation, again, just settling the body. How is the body? Checking in. Remember to be good and kind to your body. Taking a few nice deep breaths to settle and soothe the mind and the body. Letting go of all the tasks and agendas of the day for now. Just breathing easily and naturally. So in the same way, we're going to be aware of the body. What do you notice? Scanning through, being aware of any tension or tightness or a sense of relaxing, whatever is here. See if you can bring an attitude of allowing and accepting to the body. Be friendly to yourself, be open and kind to your body. And again, noticing emotions. How are you feeling? Just be curious and allowing of how you're feeling, letting it be as it is. Knowing that these are all impermanent. They're just here for a short while. Just honoring however you happen to feel. We're meeting our emotions kindly and compassionately. And then being mindful of our thoughts. What thoughts are arising in the mind? Letting your thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky, or leaves on a stream, or bubbles floating past you. And as you observe these thoughts and notice these feelings and sensations in the body, be mindful that there is a part of you that's the observer, the witness, aware of all these things coming and going. So awareness is like the sky, spacious and open, and all our experiences come and go in this open space. We're kind of taking a step back into that space of awareness. So you're having a certain thought, taking a step back and saying, I notice having the thought or noticing the feeling, but I am not the thought. I am not the feeling or the sensation. I am the witness, the observer. I am free, like the sky is free. Clouds, they come and go. They don't affect the sky. Now take a moment to reflect what qualities are most meaningful for you right now. Might be kindness or creativity or authenticity. Just see what comes to mind today. Not what others think, but what you think is important. What kind of person you would like to be. And imagine the seed of that value being watered within you. Feeling that quality spreading throughout your whole being. And imagine it reaching all parts of your body and mind, impacting your thoughts and feelings and sensations, and ultimately into your actions in your everyday life. So we're gently and kindly committing to this value that's important to you. Committing to take a tiny step in your everyday life in the direction of being the kind of person you wish to be. Living a life that's meaningful to you, purposeful to you, but in a small and manageable way. Now you can let go of all that for now and just resting in your mind and the body, resting in that state of open awareness, perhaps reconnecting with the breath, in the body. And again, when you're ready, slowly rising from the meditation, opening the eyes when you're ready, moving a little bit as the body requires, and we'll finish that meditation. So, kind of coming into this state of equanimity. Used this before in some classes where you can see the definition of mental calmness or composure, especially in difficult times. That's kind of what we're cultivating as we do these practices. Now, I'll bring that back to the informal practices. They can be quite helpful. We've practiced a few quick ones. But again, the formal practices can really help us with this feeling of equanimity. So I encourage you to try building those into, if you're not doing so many of those. One way to do that is with our Take 10 phone meditations. So again, just a reminder, they are every day, Monday through Friday at these different times. It's just a call-in number, an access code. I lead most of these, but I do have some help occasionally, so feel free to join in. You can also call pre-recorded on this 688 number, or you can go to that website that was mentioned before. There's a link there. Click on the Take a Break audios, and it'll take you, there's 30 different ones. Now, also the M Life app, which you can also, from that same website, you can register if you haven't already done so. They do have, during Mental Health Month, also 5 tips to boost your mental health. And the website itself, that Caroline Wellbeing, also has a number of mental health and stress-related topics for Mental Health Awareness Month. So check that out. As you know, there are other apps that I know some of you are using. I also have a lot of this stuff loaded on our YouTube playlist. That's where this will be recorded and posted, so I'll send that out as well. And then just a reminder about our EFR services. So with that, I'm going to close. I'm a few minutes over. I apologize. And thank you for the thank you. And thank you all for being here. I'm so, so grateful for you all in participating. I really do appreciate your presence, coming together to practice together. Hope you found it helpful. I am going to post this on that same live and recorded page, but also send them out to you. So thanks, everybody. I'll hang on for a couple more minutes if you have any questions about anything that I've mentioned. If you need any references, thanks I see all those coming through. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Have a great day. It's wonderful with springtime here. Stop that share and take good care. Stop the recording also.